Hello and welcome to the Underfloor Heating Review. Today is going to be part 3 of our Underfloor Heating Basics series of videos in which we're going to be talking all about the basics of underfloor heating manifolds. If you missed part 1, we talked about zones and circuits and the differences between them. And last week in part 2 we talked about underfloor heating pipes and how to calculate how much pipes you need for a given area. I'll put links to both of these in the description and above. So what is an underfloor heating manifold and what does it do? Well, an underfloor heating manifold looks like one of these, and its main purpose is the central control for the entire underfloor heating system. It allows the circuits to be opened and closed, pumps if necessary. It also sends signals to your boiler or your heat source to send hot water when required. So let's first talk about the different types of underfloor heating manifolds. Example I've drawn with my crayons here would be a typical underfloor heating manifold, which has a mixing valve and a circulator pump. I'll go into more detail on this in a minute. The alternative manifold is an arms only manifold, which sort of does away with this part. That means that the pump is already in the system and is providing water at a temperature that we need for underfloor heating. So let's now talk about all the components that make up an underfloor heating manifold. Well, if we start at the bottom here, we have our isolation valves, one for hot and one for cold. So this is your primary water coming from your heat source. We then have the mixing valve itself. So the purpose of the mixing valve is to mix down the higher temperature that's being received from your boiler or your heat source, mixing it down to the temperature required for underfloor heating. Now this will vary for different types of underfloor heating system. But generally it would never ever exceed 50 or at the absolute maximum 55 degrees. Then we have a pump, so the water is travelling in this direction, goes through the pump. We've then got a temperature display here, so this is giving us a visual representation. For example, if we've got 70 degrees here, we want to be seeing that the mixing valve has done its job, mixing down to the temperature that we need for the underfloor heating system. On here, most underfloor heating manifolds will have a secondary measurement of temperature. Basically, this is taking a reading and adjusting the internal parts here of the mixing valve. I won't go into too much detail on it, but all you need to know is that if the temperature is too high here, it will throttle it back to make sure you've got the accurate temperature that you need here. So this is the direction of travel. So the water's coming in, it's being mixed down, it's being pumped up through. This is the flow arm of the manifold. And this is the return arm of the manifold. So what you'll see on here, these are flow regulation valves. I'll put an image on the screen, a photograph of one, so you can see it in detail. So if we follow along here, so here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this would be a 6-port manifold. Generally, manifolds go from anywhere from 2 all the way up to 12. There are some single zone units available, but as a standard, 2 to 12. Sometimes in an underfloor heating design, you'll need more than one manifold. So that's commonplace as well. We follow along the end. So here we've got an automatic air vent. So its job here, it's in the highest point of the circuit here, is to let out any air that might have got trapped into the system. And down the bottom here, we've got our filling loop or drain valve. So here's our circuit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Generally, that would be one going all the way through, going right in the direction. So your pipe is going to come down, it's going to go into your floor, whiz around your underfloor heating system, and then come back into the return arm. So this part here is an actuator, where it's a valve that's controlled by an actuator. I'll put a picture on the screen here so you can see what it is, but essentially it's a little pin that opens and closes this port here. So I've drawn this on here just so you can understand what's going on underneath an actuator itself. So what would happen here is you then have your actuators. So you have 6 ports, you'd have 6 actuators. The job of an actuator is to pick up a signal from a underfloor heating zone. So remember, that's a thermostat, and open and close depending on when water's required or not. I'll now put a picture of an actuator. In fact, I've got one here. So this is an underfloor heating actuator. So its job is to screw onto the top here. This one is a 2-wire actuator, as you can see, and it's 230 volt, this particular one. So a 230 volt actuator would normally mean you need a 230 volt wiring centre. So now I'd like to briefly talk about the wiring centre and the thermostat arrangement for a manifold. If you remember in part 1 of the basics series, I talked about the differences between them, but now I could show you in a bit more detail. So remember, we can have all of these 6 ports controlled by one thermostat, or we could have them all controlled individually. For this example, what I'm going to say is that this is going to be these 3 actuators here, these 3 ports are going to be a kitchen, and that's all going to be controlled by one thermostat. And then I'm going to say this little circuit here on its own, port number 4, is going to be WC, this is the kitchen. And then these 2 rooms, these 2 circuits here are both going to be bedroom 1. Okay, so in terms of the wiring, so each of the actuators would be wired back to the wiring centre. Usually the wiring centre will have a number of blocks on it where you can connect these into, but let's just say, for example, this has 3 terminal blocks. So what we're going to be doing, I mean, it will have more than that, so let's just say it's got 8. But we only need to use 3 of them because we've only got 3 thermostats. So what you'd be doing is you'd be wiring these 3 actuators into this connection block here. You'd be putting the WC into this one here, and you'd be putting bedroom 1, so both of those actuators, into this one here. So what will then happen is we've got 3 thermostats. So let's just 1, 2, 3. Just show that as a simple dial thermostat. So these would then be wired in. So this would be thermostat 1, this would be thermostat 2, and this would be thermostat 3. So what happens is that the job of a wiring centre is it does a number of things. So what will happen is when, for example, the kitchen, thermostat 1, calls for heat, the connections will be closed. What that will do is send 230 volts out of this block and open up these 3 circuits. Meanwhile, WC, bedroom 1, they've got no heat required, so that these will stay closed. This is how we get the control of an underfloor heating system. So that's its first job, just to open the actuators. Its second job is to send a signal to this pump saying, I want you to start working. Okay? Thirdly, and the last job of the wiring centre, is to then connect back to your boiler, or potentially to a zone valve, then your boiler, to say, I want hot water. So just to show quickly what will happen with everything. So thermostat calls for heat, boiler kicks in, pump starts, water then can start travelling through, but it can only travel through these 3 circuits because only these 3 ports of the manifold are open. In the same way, say the kitchen it's been satisfied, these close down, WC could kick in, exactly the same thing. So that's how you get the full control of the underfloor heating system. I will talk about thermostats in an upcoming video, whether they're going to be Wi-Fi enabled or anything like that, or just a simple thermostat. So stay tuned for that. So now I'd just like to talk briefly about how an underfloor heating system and radiators can work together. It's a question that's commonly asked. Some people think you can only have underfloor heating or you can only have radiators. It's not true, and they can be used together. So frequently you might have your ground floor as underfloor heating and radiators on the first floor. That's very common in the UK. But I'll just show you briefly how that system would work. So if we start off at the boiler here, so we've got, just like I've explained, a thermostat can cool, an underfloor heating zone can kick in, so the water will start to travel through. In this case I've shown 2 zone valves here, so if the radiator system isn't calling for heat, then the water cannot go any further. But if this zone valve is open, then the water can travel up. Obviously something will be open because the boiler is calling for heat. There's a call for heat at the boiler. So the water can then travel through here. It's then mixed down, so I've explained here that say 70 degrees is being produced from the boiler. It's then being mixed down to the temperature that we need. Okay, so also what can happen if we look over here, so say we've got our radiator circuit that wants to run at 65 degrees or 70 degrees, whatever you want. That will also have a thermostat. And that will be connected back to the zone valve, and then from the zone valve back to the boiler. So if the underfloor heating system isn't calling for heat at all, but this thermostat kicks in, then the signal will be, this port would be opened, the boiler would be fired, the water cannot travel through the manifold because everything's closed down, and your high temperature water can then travel through, go through your radiators, and then the return comes back in the same fashion. So that's how you can have radiators and underfloor heating in the same system. There's another way around it as well. So you can have, if you do away with this part, you can have radiators actually connected into your underfloor heating manifold. Okay, so the thing that's obvious there is that, well, radiators need a higher temperature than underfloor heating, and that's true. But what you can do, what's becoming a little bit more common now, is that people are oversizing their radiators to get more output out of them at a lower flow temperature. So that's something that, another way that you can do it. But don't think if you've got an underfloor heating system and you've got a small ensuite or something and you want a towel rail on there, it's not going to be the high temperature that you'd normally expect because it can only run at the temperature of the underfloor heating system. So I hope you've enjoyed this brief overview of underfloor heating manifolds. I've tried to keep it as simple as possible. As always, if you do have any questions about anything in particular, then please do leave me a comment in the section below, and I'll be happy to answer it as best as I can for you. And as always, if you did like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up and you'd consider subscribing to the channel. So thank you very much. Next week we're going to be talking about the different types of underfloor heating system. We're going to be talking about screeded systems, low build-up systems, systems for joisted applications, and a few others. So I look forward to seeing you then.